Well, hello everybody. In today's video, I'm going to show you the ultimate outpost setup for producing 10 different pharmaceuticals, one of which has a value of 430, which sells for 60 credits, which means that 1,000 mass is equivalent to 600,000 credits. And this is much better than AMP in a lot of ways for value. It also has the added benefit of treating both burns, frostbite, and infections. Now, to create this one will actually require a third outpost. If you don't want to make this, just two of the outposts I'm going to show you, you can make infused bandages, which sell for 330. We're just going to have about a 45 credit value when you sell these. Now, the outpost situation is relatively easy. I'm going to condense all this information into a guide in this video. Now, all the things we're going to be able to create here, we're going to be able to create AMP, antibiotic paste, antibiotics, bandages, which we use to make the antibiotic paste, heal paste, immobilizers, infused bandages, the injector, penicillin X, and snake oil. Now, snake oil is incredibly useful because it treats a plethora of conditions such as brain injuries, concussions, and the lung damage, poisoning, and radiation poisoning. Now, poisoning is especially useful because you can sometimes get poisoned when you use a lot of AMP. So AMP and snake oil go together. Now, you could skip it and just go with injectors, which are a lot easier because they're just metabolic agents in membrane, whereas the snake oil requires chlorine. So if you don't want to find an outpost location that has access to chlorine, just let it go. You don't need to make snake oil, but I am going to show you how to set up a base which can produce all of these items, and I'm going to leave it up to you to figure out which ones you want to produce. Now, realistically, you're going to want to produce things which are useful. For money, you're going to want to make antibiotic paste in mass with the 3 outpost setup, and if you want to go with the 2 outpost setup, you're going to want to create infused bandages. Now, what's great though about making the antibiotic paste is it means you only have to carry one item, combines both the antibiotics and heal paste at the same mass. So heal paste treats burns and frostbites, and bandages treat contusions, lacerations, and puncture wounds. So having the ability to craft this and then sell it is very useful. Now, the immobilizer is one that you're not going to need to make a lot of. It takes one structure and one sealant, both of which can be produced at just the main outpost that I'm about to show you. Sealant is one of the main ingredients for a lot of the stuff that you're going to want. So I would suggest that you just have maybe a little bit of structural production, just maybe one little greenhouse producing structure. You're also going to want that for outfitting your entire outpost. So this is great that you can harvest structural components and have a use for it. The immobilizer is incredibly useful, especially for crafters. You're always dislocating limbs when you're carrying heavy loads. I'm always like breaking myself. So you'll have the ability to craft that and cure yourself of that shit. So you don't have to walk around with that. Now, the infused bandages is definitely a must-have, and the sedative is the reason we need the second outpost. It treats burns, contusions, frostbites, lacerations, and puncture wounds. Very, very useful, very, very cool. Again, we went over the injector, which we'll be able to produce here. The injector is incredibly important because you're always getting lung damage and poisoning, especially when you're on harsh terrains or you're taking a lot of drugs. So this is a really good one. However, if you get the chlorine and you use metabolic agents and sedatives instead, you get a 20% O2 recovery for 2 minutes on top of all of that. So this is really a preference thing. Okay, so these are all the things you're going to be able to make, and they have incredible values. 2 outpost setup is going to allow you to craft every single thing that you can craft with just base components at a pharmaceutical lab. All right, so that's the introduction about all the things we're going to be able to do with this. It's really easy. All right, and let's talk about the skills that you're going to need for this. At a minimum, you're going to need 1 level in botany and 1 level in zoology. And you can use the small storage, you can use the first greenhouse, and the first husbandry building. But if you want to build the bigger buildings, you're also going to want at least 2 ranks in outpost engineering. Strongly recommend you do this so you can build the bigger storage too. And if you want to set up on the third outpost that has the crazy time dilution and the acids that I mentioned you need, then you're going to need rank 1 of planetary habitation so you can build an outpost on a planet that has the deep freeze condition. This is also something I strongly recommend because there are a lot of great planets that are deep freeze. Those things are what you need at a minimum. Here are some of my recommendations though. Recommend that you have like a couple ranks in surveying because it will make finding things so much faster. You can see things from so much further away. It's a huge time saver for me especially. But this is only for people who are like really into outposts. Scanning is also kind of useful, but not totally necessary as long as you know where the resources are in the bio names. I'm going to be giving you that information, so you don't technically need this. You really only need 1 rank in botany and zoology. The further ranks in this are like fairly useless unless you're going to go out and hand kill animals or hand gather. And then the additional rare harvest that you can get, I've read other people's experience. It's not that great. Chemistry is especially useful. I'm actually working on getting to rank 4. You don't need this for what we're doing. For research, for all of this, you just need performance enhancement 1 and medical treatment 1. You don't need the other further researches, which do require the chemistry. If you go this route, you max this out, because crafting chems will occasionally triple the amount crafted, and that's really cool. Also, there are some more advanced chems that are quite interesting, but again, not necessary. As far as research goes, I want to be very clear, you do not need to research Horticulture 1 in order to build the first greenery, the single dome greenery. You don't need any research for that. You just need 1 rank in botany. And the same for husbandry. The first tier only requires the skill in zoology. However, if you want to build the rank 2 greenhouse and the rank 3 greenhouse, you have to invest in these. Horticulture 1 requires botany rank 1 and outpost engineering 1. This will allow you to build the second tier greenhouse. For the domestication, you need outpost engineering rank 1, zoology rank 1, and that will allow you to build the tier 2 domestication. And the same with this, domestication 2 will allow you to build the tier 3 husbandry area, okay? But you need outpost engineering 2 and zoology rank 1, and this is what I was saying, just 1 rank in botany, 1 rank in zoology, and 2 ranks in outpost engineering. And that's going to benefit you because you're going to be able to build the biggest greenhouse, the biggest horticulture greenhouse, and you're going to be able to build the tier 3 domestication and the biggest storage. You get everything bang for your buck. So you'll need to spend, quite a bit of time. In theory, you could easily get away with just building the base units and using large storage and just rest for, 2,000 hours. All of this jazz is kind of irrelevant. What matters really is how much time can you wait and how much storage can you have, because at the end of the day it's going to be full. How it gets full doesn't really freaking matter, does it? So to build the tier 3 greenhouse, you need substrate molecular sieve. These can be a little tricky to get. Build a tier 2, you'll need a molecular sieve. So molecular sieve are going to require that you have special projects rank 2, and the substrate molecular sieve requires special projects rank 4. As an outpost builder, I strongly recommend that you get all 4 ranks of these so that you can craft the ultra rare component. Totally worth it. Highly recommend this, okay? Again, too, you could just rest twice as long and use the lower tier items. That is technically viable, okay? That's what you need. Just wanted to explain it. I've had people say that you can't build a greenhouse without research. That's false. You just need rank 1 of each of those skills to build the base tier unit. There are 3 tiers. The tier 2 and tier 3 are unlocked through research, but the first one is given for free. 1 zoology, 1 skill botany. Okay? Keep it simple. The 2 main planets for this, Serpentis 4, which has an insane amount of fauna and flora, and you're going to need to scan every single one of these. And I'll give you some tips and tricks on best methodologies for this. And Serpentis is its own system, way off over here. Now, the best way to find this is to go, let's take it from Seoul, right? So from Seoul, north and east to Cheyenne. And then from Cheyenne, you're going to go all the way over here to east of Crix, a little bit further east of Heisenberg. And right here is Serpentis. So let me just show you that again real quick. From Seoul to Narion, to Cheyenne, Crix, Serpentis is right here. East of Moloch, east of Bara, northeast of Rutherford, northeast of Nera. Okay, right here. This is Serpentis. Also southeast of Ixel. Procyon, right over here. We're going to Procyon A. Very important distinction. This is where the second outpost is going to be. All right, and we're going to Procyon III. Now, Procyon III has a ton of fauna and a ton of flora. For Serpentis 4, we have animal husbandry. We can produce all of the materials I'm showing on the screen. The greenhouse, the fiber, metabolic agent, nutrient, structural. This will require a bit of a different setup for making AMP, animal husbandry, which requires fiber and water. Animal husbandry is a little bit more expensive. However, these things are relatively easy. But on Procyon, we have antimicrobial and sedatives, which we need to produce all of the pharmaceuticals that I'm listing here on the screen. So highlighted in the light orange are everything we can produce on Serpentis, and highlighted in yellow is everything we can produce on Procyon. All we need from Procyon are the antimicrobials and the sedatives, but it also has the ability to create structurals and ornamentals. So with just those 2 outposts, with all of those materials, we can produce 9 of the 10 things on this list. To make the antibiotic paste, however, we need carboxylate acids. Now, carboxylate acids, unfortunately, are not on any planet that has antimicrobials or sedatives. I scoured the database to find all this information, and I narrowed all this stuff down to the best possibility. If I'm wrong, correct me. And the best place to get them, actually, is Sol and on Iapetus. It's a moon of Saturn, and it has a 79-hour time dilution, and it has the acids. So you'll just create an extractor, and I'm pretty sure you can land pretty much just in any frozen hill area, which is pretty much the whole damn place, and you can find all of those things here. It also has benzene too, so if you need benzene for any reason. But this is where I would wait and let all of the manufacturing build up. But you don't need to make that outpost if you don't want to. But if you don't make that outpost, then you're going to go to Venus to rest, and that has a 100-hour time dilution. You can rest straight on your ship. However, I will note that you will need skills to build a colony on Iapetus because it has deep freeze. But I believe you only need rank 1 of planetary habitation. So those are the planets. So now let's talk about scanning technique. On Serpentis, you're going to scan every single fauna and flora there is. There's no exception. You want every single thing you can craft here. You also get the added benefit of spice. I'm going to say nothing is off limits here. There's several biomes. There's the frozen biome, savanna, mountains, the wetlands. Now, the easiest way to scan things and to think about how you scan things is to use the information here. If it says 0%, it means you haven't scanned anything. It says 57%, it means you still have things to scan. Once you've scanned every fauna and flora available in a biome, it will say 100%. So when you're getting to these, like the last 3 or 4 fauna or flora that you need to scan, take that into consideration. Now, this is an advanced guide, so I'm not going to go into all the basics. I have an outpost guide on amp production. I also have a tutorial on basics of botany. I recommend you watch that video for scanning techniques. I'm not going to go over all that information in here. I will note though that if you scan something and you don't see it available in your greenhouse or husbandry area, you need to go back and scan it one more time. This is going to happen to a lot of people, and it's going to be like one of the #1 comments, like, hey, I scanned everything to 100% and I don't see it. Go back and scan it one more time. It happens all the time that it glitches out. And you'll be good. Go to each biome, scan everything to 100% completion. So I'm just going to give you a basic scanning tutorial. All right. You're going to come into the game and you're going to hit F on the PC, which is scan. You're going to see animal. This is your fauna. And then you're going to see flora, which are the plants, right? All you're going to do is hit E, and you're going to scan each of these until they are a solid green at 100% scan. This will allow you to produce those in your animal husbandry area once you've scanned them. So we just scan those things if they're ones that can be produced. We just scan them, and now you can see we have the ability to produce these ingredients from the animals that we've scanned fully. For structural, it says I still need to scan more. Okay, so we got these flying creatures. So you can see when you scan a creature, it turns solid blue. That tells you that you've scanned this one individual animal that you're looking at, but you still need to scan more. If it's outlined in blue, it means you haven't scanned it yet. And if it's outlined in a solid green, it means you're done. All right, so you see how it says 100% scanned? Yeah, she's having a good time. Damn, dude, she's getting weird. I've never seen her that sadistic. And some of these animals, are dicks, and you got to show them that you're a bigger dick, and they'll leave you alone after that. So we're going to continue on our merry way. All right, you can see over here we have the cold cave nettle, and it produces sealants. Now I'm going to scan it, and you can see that it says outpost production allowed. So this will, once this is scanned to 100%, I will be able to place a greenhouse, which will produce sealant. And this is it. This really isn't that complicated. Just scanned it to 100%. You're just going to run around, and you're going to scan everything that you need until you get the applicable ingredients. So fiber. Now here on Procyon III, we're just realistically looking for antimicrobials and sedatives. And we're going to mass produce those. We're just going to bring them. Now, I'm not going to use cargo links or any of that shit. If you want to know how cargo links work, intersystem cargo links work, I have guides that explain this stuff in very good detail. I'm not going to use them. They're a waste of fucking time, and I hate them. Legit, they're just such a waste of time. I'm just going to build mass storage. I'm going to land on these planets. I'm going to gather 10, 20,000 of the material I need, and I'm just going to go outpost to outpost and mass craft in one centralized location, and it's going to take me minutes. That's it. That's it in a nutshell, how you do all this stuff. And the floaty guys, you can scan them from pretty far away. So these are the structural creatures right here. You can see they produce structural components. All right. And so the big guide realistically then is, how do I set all this stuff up? The husbandry area is a little bit more complicated because it takes both water and fiber, and quite a bit of fiber, in fact. They're resource intensive, okay? They take a bit of resources to run, but this is all relatively easy. All right, so this is where things are going to get just a tad bit complicated, but I'm going to try to make this as easy as possible. So the way you want to look at all of this is, how are you going to organize all of these things? On the list here, we're going with the 3 outposts setup, where we are producing antibiotic pastes, which have the highest value for their mass. Everything highlighted in blue on this are things we're going to produce, but in low quantities. So we have a host of things we need to make in order to be able to produce all of these resources, but we're only going to be producing them for consumption. So we don't need a lot of these resources. We just need one production of them, really. So what I've comprised here is a list of everything on Serpentis IV, Procyon III, and the 3rd outpost on Iapetus, where we'll have the high time dilution and we'll get carboxylate acids. Okay. Now the bold items that we really need in general are a bunch of membranes, analgesic, and antimicrobials. So you'll see GG and HH. That signifies greenhouse for G, and H signifies husbandry. So some things we have to make through husbandry, some things we have to make otherwise. Now, for the bandages, we could produce those easily on Serpentis IV, but we can also make them on Procyon III just using greenhouses, which is a lot easier than using the husbandry. So this is totally up to you. If you want to produce all of these things on one planet and just mass produce the antimicrobials and the sedatives on Procyon III, then do that. You're going to have to kind of play with this to get it right. I'm going to show you the setup that I use because I think it's going to yield the more efficient results. Now, it would be a lot easier to just do fiber sealants on Procyon III, but since I need sealants and structurals for other things, I'm going to just do everything on Serpentis, and I'm going to mass produce antimicrobials and sedatives on Procyon III. Even though it would make way more sense to do fiber and sealant because they're just greenhouses, you can mix and match these things to your style. You don't have to do what I'm doing. A lot of what I do is just to make things easy for a teaching purpose. If we want to make snake oil, we're going to need chlorine. So this is one situation on Serpentis IV where we are going to need a 2 biome setup, but it is very easy to find. So we go to Serpentis IV, click on the planet, and what we are looking at here is argon being in the frozen crevasses, and chlorine being in the savanna. Luckily here, we have a very easy spot. So I have found a spot. You have to click and look for biome changes. I have found a spot that is very easy, where I already have an outpost, which I'll be destroying, where I tested everything. But you can see here that you're in this crevasses, and is right there. It's the brown. That's what I love about the frozen biomes, is it's really easy to see the other biomes. So all I got to do is run towards the brown, and I have located an area where I can get chlorine and argon and have a perfect base. That's all you're going to do. Just find a spot where the 2 biomes meet and run towards the light. Now we're not going to need a lot of chlorine because we're just going to make enough snake oil to offset the amount of amp that we're using. And we're only producing amp for consumption in this build because the antibiotic paste, which we are going to be mass producing, have an insanely higher value. All right, so we've met the location. Now, essentially what we want to do, we can see we have chlorine here, but we do not have argon, is we're just going to run between these 2 borders of the frozen crevices. I'm calling it the crevasse. I don't give a shit if it's right or wrong. You know what I mean. All right, here we go. Argon, benzene, water. Okay. Ooh, the chlorosalines are over there. Argon. Okay. And this, this might take you a bit. There we go. Finally. Remember, we don't need a lot of it, so even if we just get enough for 1 extractor, that's all you're going to need. This is mainly just for production for use. So we got chlorine and argon right here, and we got chlorosalines and water. Cool. Water is the big one. So I'm going to skip right to the good stuff and explain everything step by step on how you make this. Now we are going to be producing the majority of these products on Serpentis 4. We could make the fiber and sealant on Procyon III. However, I wanted to keep as much as possible in one base location. So after this established outpost, all you need are antimicrobials, sedatives from Procyon III, and then the acids. Let me explain everything. This is not as confusing as you think. A lot of these are just water lines and fiber lines. Looking at Serpentis 4, for greenhouses, we want to produce metabolic agents. We don't have to produce a large quantity of these because we're just going to be making these for injectors, penicillin X, snake oil, and AMP. All right, and we're just producing enough of these for our own consumption. The main item we're producing for this is antibiotic paste. This is the one that's going to sell for 60 credits a pop, and that's made from antibiotics and heal paste. Antibiotics take membranes, antimicrobials. Heal paste takes analgesic and membranes. Both antibiotics and heal paste need membranes, so we want to produce a lot of those, and we need to produce analgesic. On Procyon III, we need to produce an enormous amount of antimicrobials. So let me explain everything step by step. First and foremost, the small wind turbines here, power of 10, making this one of the best places to make a base, just in general for power alone and all the resources on this planet. So I have a bunch of these down. We have a total power of 210, and these are ridiculously cheap. Wind turbine is 1 nickel, 1 cobalt, and 2 aluminum. Very easy resource to get in this game. Now here is the main thing, water. So the first extractor gives you 0.83, and the second extractor gives you just a little bit over 2 water. So each greenhouse here and each husbandry area consume 1 water. As you can see, we are low on water. You can easily identify bottlenecks in your design by resting for a bit and just seeing what they are not getting. So we need to add 1 more water to this. I'm using the tier 2 commercial, giving me 2 water, and then I'm hooking it to a central water hub. So very easy. I'm actually glad that happened because it kind of showed you how easy it is to identify the bottlenecks of production. The thing about water is it has a pretty wide girth. You're gonna have to use tier 2 water for this design. You're not going to be able to fit enough tier 1 water unless you cut down some of the buildings, which I'm going to leave up to you to do the math behind. We're producing a low amount, a low quantity of some things, and we're maximizing our production of antibiotics and heal paste. Greenhouses. Now, every greenhouse, regardless if it's tier 1, 2, or 3, consumes 1 water. I recommend strongly that you use tier 3 greenhouses. Now, I will say, however, what really matters at the end of the day is how much storage you have. These animal husbandry facilities require 2 fiber and 1 water. So the greenhouses is the one place you don't want to skimp because the fiber requirement is the same no matter what. Now the number for greenhouses I got was 1 for tier 1, 2 fiber for a tier 2, and 4 fiber for a tier 3. So 1 tier 3 greenhouse can feasibly facilitate 2 animal husbandry areas. So 1 fiber producing greenhouse per 2 animal husbandry is the go. Now I'm producing analgesic because I need a bunch of them and I have storage to boot for it. Each of these is connected to its own individual storage. Now the reason I'm doing this is because when you have over 60 links, your whole design can break. It's really important to keep the amount of consecutive links you have as low as possible. You can have, hundreds of links in a build, but it bugs out tremendously. Another thing too is that the resources are, like you can see here now it's saying we don't have water or fiber. Here it's saying we don't have fiber. Don't pay too much attention to that in itself. That's just kind of the ebbs and flows of building. My advice is to go up to the water container itself and see if there's water in it. You can see here that there's 5 water. Now what I would typically suggest you do is you have a bed and you rest. Let's rest for a bit. The ebbs and flows of all this stuff is very sporadic and not always an indication that you actually have a bottleneck, okay? So it's really important to note that. Best gauge is to rest a bit and see if it goes up. We were at 5, now we're at 21. That tells me we have a positive flow of water, and those weird ebb and flows I was seeing were just resources being moved around. So we don't need any more water. Rest and make sure that it's consistent. You can also see we have 15 fiber and we rested. I can be pretty assured that we have a positive flow right now. So we have just enough. So 4 tier 3 greenhouses producing fiber, okay? That's about 16 fiber, which means we can support about 8 animal husbandry areas. So here you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to the dot. All right. So you would need, if you were to use tier 2s, you would need twice the amount of greenhouses, or one tier 2 greenhouse per husbandry area, no matter what tier it is, as they all consume the same amount of resources. So there's a huge advantage to producing the highest tier building you possibly can. However, at the end of the day, storage is what matters, because we're going to be resting on a planet with a very high conversion rate, where one day is like 2,400 hours, and all of these will be full when we get here. We have one greenhouse producing metabolic agents, and we only need to produce a little bit of this, and so we can produce, 100 amp, 10 injectors, 10 penicillin. We're not going to be making a lot of this, but this gives us the capacity to make those drugs so we can use them when we're out killing stuff. And then over here, I have one greenhouse connected to storage, making structural parts, and that is to make immobilizers, and it also gives you the ability to craft decorations and all types of stuff. So if you want some structural parts for another base, just run over here and grab it from the inventory. Over here I have the chlorine, and that is to make snake oil. So we'll be able to make snake oil. We don't have to gather any of the resources here. We just have to go up to the pharmaceutical bench, and it will pull from every single storage within this base. That's what makes this so awesome. We only have to get 2 materials from another outpost to make the final touches of a few of the drugs. And then over here I have argon, and this is for amp production. Just make sure you have enough water. Recognize that each of these take 1 water. So in our design we have 8 husbandry areas, 6 greenhouses. So we have a total consumption of 14, which means at a minimum we need about 7 tier 2 water extractors. That would be around 14. I would put down about 8 tier 2 water extractors for this build. All right, so I've explained those things. Then over here we have what should be toxins, and this is actually another great example. So I need to change this from membranes to toxins, and this is for amp production. Now, when you change the production of a greenhouse, it disconnects the water from it, and it also disconnects the fiber. Now, I have all my fiber for my greenhouses running into this massive stack over here, and then into the husbandry areas. So this is very simple. You have a main water area, connect it to each of the greenhouses, connect the greenhouses that are producing fiber to a fiber storage, and then connect the fiber and the water each to an animal husbandry facility, and then connect each of these to their own individual storage to reduce the amount of links in consecutive that you have. So you can see that the side facility here is producing toxins, and this facility over here is producing sealant. The metabolic agents over here and the toxins and the argon produce amp, and the metabolic agents and chlorine plus sedatives we're getting from another place are going to produce snake oil. All right, and then the last and not least, animal husbandry areas are producing membranes. Now, we need membranes for both antibiotics and heal paste, so I have 4 of these and 4 different storages in tow. I went a bit overkill on this design, but I think it is important. You get antibiotic paste, which gives you 2 XP per craft, and then it sells for has a value of 430, which sells for about 60 credits a pop, which means that 1,000 mass of it is worth 600,000 credits. So if you just have 1,000 cargo on your ship, you have 600,000 credits worth of things you can sell at any point. If you want to buy, 200,000 worth of ammo, you can go for it. So that is the setup. Very simple. Now I'm producing all of these materials. I just have to walk up to a pharmaceutical bench to access all of them. Now I'm going to build my second outpost on Procyon. And what's so super cool is I only have to make antimicrobials, which I can do in a greenhouse, and sedatives, which I will need animal husbandry for, but it's super, super, super easy. All right, and that is the first outpost. The next outpost is superbly easier, and that is going to be on Procyon A. The bulk of the work was the Serpentis. So on Procyon, in Procyon A system, on Procyon III, you're going to place your base wherever you want. I don't have a use for any of these resources for the current build, but if you have a use, you can always look to try to get an outpost that has the capacity to do other things. I put my outpost on the coastline. You can literally place it anywhere. I will note, however, in Procyon III, there are a lot of hostile animals, so you will actually need to place some considerable defenses. And as you can see from the chart that I'm showing, and all of these charts are going to be linked in the Google Doc that's in the description of this video. So you don't have to just, watch my video and go back and forth. I have diagrams for every single outpost and how it works. So we have 2 greenhouses making antimicrobials that are pulled into these massive storage systems, which are then fed into the transfer station. And then the only difference here is we have 1 greenhouse making fiber fed into a storage, fed into an animal husbandry area that's producing sedatives, and that's to make some of the other jugs, such as snake oil and any infused bandages if you want them, which you will. The big ticket item here, of course, is just the antimicrobials, and that's it. All of this being linked directly back into a transfer station so that we can quickly pull these. Now, another great thing about this location is that the small wind turbines are 10 power, the large wind turbines are 25. So great stuff going on. Now, I put it on the coastline so there are only 3 ways in. You do have quite a bit of hostile animals coming in. So I have turrets on the outer perimeter. Highly recommend you have these. All right, and I'll show you how all the transfer station works once we get the 3rd outpost up. And I did have an issue with the water here. They are still producing 2 for the tier 2 water extractors. However, I had to double the amount of water in order to get enough water for everything. I don't know what's going on. I built 3 outposts. I thought potentially one of my outposts were bugged. So you're going to need twice the amount of water extractors on this planet from my experience. Maybe for you it will work, but I've tried multiple outposts and the water consumption here seems to be higher. Even though it's saying 1, this game is jacked. Okay, this game is jacked up. It's got shit going on. Nothing makes sense. It's like I spend, 30 minutes, 40 minutes testing something, and then I get a completely different set of numbers. Nothing is consistent. All I can guarantee you in this game is that you just need to keep things simple. All you need to do is rest, walk up to your water, and make sure that there's more water coming in than is going out. Best way to test this is to empty your water, rest for 6 hours, and then see if you have any water accumulation. Now, I had an appropriate number of water extractors, and there was not, holy shit, that's creepy. There was not enough water. So now you can see I got 24. So my advice is if you're having water issues, just put another water extractor down, rest, and repeat this process until you notice that it is actually accumulating water, and then you're good. All right. And then the last but not least place, this is going to be our main resting point, is in the Sol system. And it's going to be on Iapetus, which is a moon of Saturn right here. And you can place your base on any frozen hill. That is where the carboxylate acids are. It's just pretty much everywhere. The location I have my base is over here. This might take you a bit to find a spot with carboxylate acids, but you're just going to run around till you find it. This whole damn moon is one giant frozen hill, so you should be able to find it within 5 minutes. Carboxylate acid is really easy. You just need to put 2 extractors per storage area, link all your storages in consecutive order all the way up to the top, and then link the very top box to your transfer station. Place a bed, put a place to land your ship, and make sure that you have enough energy. Now, energy is hard to get on this moon, unfortunately, but fortunately, the power needs are very minimal. The solar dome here gives 4, solar array gives 2. You only need 20 power, so 10 solar arrays could easily power it. I'm using a reactor for myself, but the solar arrays are definitely easy to mass produce. Literally all you have to do here and connect it to the transfer station. Now remember that these are acids, so you need liquid storage, and we're just gonna rest for about 2,400 hours. I already rested for 2,400 hours with 1 extractor and realized I needed 2 extractors per, so this should pretty much do it. But just rest until everything is full, and I guarantee you when you go to the next outpost, pretty much all your storage will be full too. Now the time dilution here, as you can see, is impressive. Almost on par with Venus. So as we can see, these things are pretty much full. Now the big ones hold about 407, 424, it looks like, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now, here is the deal. When you go up to your transfer station and you pull, you can only pull once before you have to look away and then look again to pull. It gets kind of glitched out. So this is what I do. I pull all of them but 1, okay? I hit Q to go to my inventory, and then I just put 1 of any material in there, right? And what happens is, now I can pull on the acids, and that 1 item refreshes the container. So I've seen a lot of people do this, and I think people don't think transfer containers are useful because they're getting bad advice on how to use transfer containers. There, I just emptied out the entire base of carboxylate acids. I saw one YouTuber destroy his entire base. Yeah, because if you destroy the entire base, you collect all the items, and I'm just sitting there like, dude, subpar advice. Like, now it's important is that the first item in be the item that you want. So if I emptied my transfer container, I would put 1 carboxylate acid in and 1 aluminum. And that way, when the item comes in, it's refreshing the top. That way I don't have to scroll down. People are always asking me why I use transfer containers, and I'm just like, now we're going to Procyon III, and we're going to do the same thing. Here you can see we have the antimicrobial. Now we need to pull, we're just going to pull all but like 1. We're going to hit Q, and again, we're going to place 1 aluminum in so that we can just keep pulling the antimicrobials. There we go, and then the sedatives. But you see how I'm doing that? How I put in an item that's not pulling, so it's always at the bottom, which means that the transfer container is always resetting. So all I have to do here is spam E, and I mean, like, I'm just having a casual conversation with you. I'm literally emptying out the entire base. Boom. So let's see how many antimicrobials I just got. 32,000. Okay, so I have 32,000 antimicrobials, and all I had to do was go up to my transfer station. Cool, right? All right, cool. So we've pulled all the resources we need. Now we're going to our main base, and luckily here we don't have to even worry about transfer containers because the pharmaceutical bench pulls from everything. And then we're going to now go to the main place, Serpentis 4 base. All right. And then this is where the magic happens. Now we just have to find our pharmaceutical bench and look at everything we can produce here. So we can produce snake oil, and we don't need too much of it. I'm going to produce like 43. We can produce produce just enough for my next trip, which I think should be about 100. We can produce antibiotics, and the main thing we're producing here is antibiotics and heal paste, and we can produce all the shit I'm talking about here. So we can produce some bandages. And then now we can produce infused bandages, and we don't need that many, right? We only probably need 10 for our inventory. A lot of this is overkill. We're not doing injectors. We're doing snake oil and penicillin for infections. Now, this stuff only weighs 0.1. So 10 of these is like 1 pound. So you can carry like 10 of these to cure yourself from any disease. And I mean, you're in good shape. So we made the infused bandages. We want some immobilizers for fractured limbs. I'm actually going to do 20 of those because I'm always hurting myself. But isn't this great? We have the capacity to build everything. So we just made all of the most advanced healing things, and now we're just going to mass produce heal paste. And the way you do that is get the area where the quantity is 99, hit enter to craft, hit enter again to reselect heal paste, click once, enter. And you just do that in rapid. We're about to produce an enormous amount of experience. Then we're going to produce antibiotics, and then we're going to produce antibiotic paste. And the antibiotic paste is 2 experience per craft. So you can see we're getting about 99 experience per bulk craft. We're getting 1 experience per item. So we're getting experience here. We have a lot. And I think at some point we have to ask ourselves, do we have enough membranes for the other stuff? So you might need to stop and kind of like space out how much you have, because you need membranes for both the heal paste and antibiotics. And you got to keep in mind you're crafting 99 per, so I just crafted several thousand. Most likely I need to increase my membrane storage so that I'm not putting myself in jeopardy of mass producing too much of one item. That was probably enough. And then antimicrobial paste. You can see the carboxylate acids, you need 2, and you need 1 heal paste and 1 antibiotic, but I'll just do 1 for you. So 1 of these, 2 experience, okay? So now I'm getting 217 per batch craft of 99. So you can see we're printing literally thousands of XP to craft, and my fingers are getting tired, but my spirit is full. This is nuts. This is more material than I thought it would be. I'm not gonna lie. I made 15,000 antibiotics. So that's about $1 million. I made about 1 million credits worth. And from that, we got 3 levels, which is actually pretty substantial when you're I was level 119. So crazy. Now I'm going to go show you how much that was worth. And like I said, it only weighs about 1,500 mass. And I still have 23,000 antimicrobial. Most likely what I would do in this situation is build a room and throw all of this stuff into a pile on the ground that I can grab, and then I can mass stockpile it. I'd also probably get some kind of auto clicker. You could also get a couple storages for sedatives, so you can throw sedatives into a storage, and I'm pretty sure you could use the transfer station to move those things. Throw all that into your ship, and we can see that it weighs 1,557 mass and is worth about 1,000,000 credits. And that's really easy to get a like I only have a couple cargo holds on this thing. So I'm carrying 1,000,000 credits on my ship. So we've thrown everything we had on the ground, and now we're light, and we have about 1,000,000 credits worth of heal paste. Now, I prefer Neon. The Key is also a very good location. The core of Neon, which is down here in Volley Alpha, Neon Core. Now, I've shown how to do this in other guides. I'm going to keep it simple for the sake of the video. I'm just going to show you how much money this stuff that I got is worth. We're going to go to the Trade Authority, do some business, and hit Q, and then hit Q again to sell from ship inventory. And now we can sell all the paste from here. So yeah, 1,043,324. One of these bad boys goes for 67. I do have some perks which lift the cost up a bit. Crazy. Now what I do is I don't necessarily always sell this stuff. What I prefer to do, in fact, is actually just like buy ammo, because ammo has no weight and I just have an unlimited supply of money, and then I never have to worry about that stuff. I also will buy any of the more advanced med packs. So med packs which have 0. And you can also buy some of the more hardcore drugs and alcohol. You just never have to worry about money. So here I can buy 5 of these. So it's like those 49,000 credits, but you know, I'm just going to go to my ship inventory and sell just enough antibiotic paste to facilitate that right there. 49982, that's good. I don't care if I overpaid. Now I made 11,000 and I bought all that ammo. I have a lot of money, but anyway, that's what makes the antibiotic paste really good. Amp is still pretty sufficient though. I just thought it was kind of cool to have something that had even more value and allowed you to produce all of that stuff. So you can see like I'm broken, go to aid. Oh, that's right, I needed an immobilizer. So there's the immobilizer, boom, fractured limb cured. So there we go, I'm healed of all my ailments. Fractured limbs, immobilizers are really good. Fractured limbs happen a lot. One thing I will say is I have an amp combo with the snake oil. So if you hit B for favorites, I got amp I have on 3 and snake oil I'm actually going to put on 4. So now I can take amp and then snake oil, and the snake oil will cure me if I get any poisoning and it will give me O2 regeneration. So now I have the speed bonus. It takes a little bit more, and I have the O2 regeneration. I'm not even using personal atmosphere. You can see I can run fairly fast for a fairly long period of time. These drugs last 2 minutes. So if I were to use personal oxygen in conjunction to all this stuff, it, definitely increases all of that. But yeah, just a really good combo. This is incredibly useful for speedrunning missions. I run a lot of missions, so outposts aren't just to make money and to do XYZ. Outposts are to make the whole mission experience enjoyable. Now you can go legendary farming, and you're running 35% faster, jumping twice as high. It's a huge advantage for mobility in combat. That's why I love these things. And I just bought a bunch of shotgun shells, so now I'm ready. So this build is to make a bartering resource where you can just buy all the ammo you need to go out and shoot everything that you see. So thank you so much for watching. If you have questions, go ahead and leave them in the comment. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. And have a good one.